Hello guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends where you're watching from at this moment of the day. Yes, this is a very nice and interesting information. So gladly watch this, response of Emeka Ihedioha, the executive governor of Imo State, as people rightly continue calling him because they said he's still their governor. Yes, he has this interview and his responses really proves that he is a peaceful man and there is still hope for him to regain his mandate. His people are really praying for him. This is the man that took him out of that place, and these are his works. So please, before I release the video for you to watch, that's his interview for you to watch. If this is your first time of watching, kindly hit on the red subscribe button and also the bell notification sign so that when next we upload a new video, you'll be among the first people to get the notification. By so doing, you help promote our YouTube channel. You can see all these women crying, you know. Please watch his interview and pray for him.
May we meet you, sir?
Emeka Ihedioha. I'm a Nigerian of Imo origin, and I would say I've been a servant of the Nigerian state for quite some years, and I remain so.
Now, you have become quite the example of ingenuity and leadership, creativity in thoughts, innovation in leadership. And there's been a lot of strength behind that persona. How did this come about? Was there a journey to this?
I derive my strength from service to the people. In my legislative years, 12 in the National Assembly, those periods were dotted with accomplishments, motivational leadership, service to my committee, service to my constituency, service to the House. I was lucky to have had the privilege to have chaired an important committee on marine transport. And as chief whip, I was the servant of the people on the floor, and later deputy speaker presided over committee of the House, and that gave me a privilege and an overview of several activities in the House. I had a full insight into the workings of the National Assembly, and I understood Nigeria very, very well, and I thank God for all that. I believe in service. For the 12 years I served in the National Assembly, I always had constituency briefings for my constituents every 23rd December. It was a day that they look forward for us. It was an accountability day. And so for me, accountability has always been the watchword, and my politics revolves around the people. It's about the people, for the people, and would always remain by the people. And so going to governorship, I had taken time to understudy both the Nigerian state and my state. I had the opportunity and the privilege to have toured Imo State severally in various the nooks and crannies of our state, various clans, virtually every ward in the state, the 305 wards and local government areas several. So I understood the aspirations, their pains, the neglect, the poverty in the land, the yearnings, the wailings, the deprivation. And it was very important that we redefined the ways of governance. And so for me, taking the opportunity of being governor was to set the stage for men and women, young and old, that I could partner with. Anywhere I identify the star, I would fish such a person out to add value to the move today. And significantly, we transformed the economy of the state within a very short time. We transformed the infrastructure of the state within a very short time. We redefined Imo, and then institutionally, we began to give life and hope back to the institutions of states. And that's significant. That was my watchword in the course of the campaign, and I'm happy I accomplished it.
Interesting. Now let me come in here. We we have seen time and time again examples of leadership, but not in a long time have we seen such, faith and belief of the people behind your person. And again, it's been precisely said that you have shown strength in the reuniting of the Southeast, the ideals of what the Southeast stood for, and the calculations of the world and in Nigeria. You brought the rebirth of the Ihedioha series in Imo State, which was, of course, pronounced as the central hub for bringing back, leadership or leaders in the Southeast together to think Igbo. What inspired this?
As a young boy ahead of the Ihedioha lectures, our legendary Dr. Sambakwe initiated it some 40 years ago, and had Professor M. J.C. who was then the first Vice Chancellor of Imo State University, as the first lecturer. And I had loved it. Maybe I didn't participate in all that, but I followed the process. It was about our culture, it was about our history, about our orientation. A people must believe in something. And so what do we believe in? And so it's important for, even for the younger generation, for our children, to understand what is it, where are they coming from, what is the culture of the people. We must identify with our base, with our roots. And that's what, and so when I came into governance and found out that Ihedioha had been, well, systematically by the government before mine, wished it away, I thought there was need for us to resurrect it. And that resurrection meant a lot of sense. It wasn't about Imo people alone. And so we had cause to invite our brothers from across the southeast and south states to come join us in celebrating our culture. And for me, it was a reorientation program. And I'm happy we did that. That's very significant. That's people who love their heritage do that, and I believe we love our heritage. And I think there's need for us to always link up with our history. That's the only way to go forward. And so I'm happy. And so Imo provided, by the centrality of our location, I've always said Imo is significant. Imo is the heartland of the southeast, and to an extent, brothers in the south. And so we provided that base, that rallying point. And I'm happy with our brother, sister states, that they came to be with us. I'm happy about everything, and we felt there was need to give space and sense of accommodation and be our. We have to be good brothers. We have to show example of good neighborliness. Nigerian nation, one, and two, the Southeast. What makes up the Nigerian nation? Our respective communities, our local governments, our various states, the regions, the various zones, and then the Nigerian nation. So the Southeast is unique in the sense that we have one cultural identity. We're homogeneous ethnically, and so that should be a source of strength. And yes, we're still not there. I believe that events and times would get us to get there, and we will understand that we still have roles to play in the modern Nigeria and its evolution. And of course, the realization will come as we proceed. We are a people who are very energetic and endowed with great potentials. I think about perhaps the most intellectually endowed. One can go to that extent to say that that we have a strength in intellectualism, which is what we can push forward as our unique selling point. As governor of Imo State, I did say that we are not Lagos. I said we are not Abuja, we are not Rivers, but what do we have? Our intellectual capacity, and that we need to take a leap from that base, take a leap from that capacity, take a leap from that incipient resource to move forward. You must be identified with it. So I think The Southeast will find its foot. Yes, right now it looks like different states are on there, but I'm sure as events get shaped up, we'll find the need to be together. But I must say that my implicit confidence in Nigerian state is unwavering. It's unwavering. Nigeria remains a great nation. The potentials in our country are huge, and I believe that even the events of 14th, 14th January is not enough to shake my determination, my confidence, my faith in the Nigerian state. It will rather strengthen my resolve to make Nigeria greater again, because I believe that there's a lot of strength in our diversity. There's a lot of strength in our being together. There's a lot of strength in the cause of things, in where we are. About the greatest African nation, and so you can't be a greater nation in division. And so Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. I think that sums up essentially the events of Tuesday, January 14th. If we are philosophical and spiritual in that sense, I'm sure we'll overcome. Otherwise, like I said, I've been battling to rationalize, and of course, I don't think anyone had so far been able to rationalize the pronouncement of the Supreme Court. I believe that somehow there will be need to resolve those issues.
Going back to the judgment, on the 14th of January, Tuesday 2020, there was a sense of solemn, melancholic, disgruntled despair felt in Imo State at that judgment. People felt a sense of betrayal at their rights and their votes. As a true Democrat, how do you advise people to surmount the whale, to stay ahead of the fall of our institutions, especially in a history or in a period like this? What is your message to the Imo people?
The continual survival of our democratic system. That event has obviously put both the judicial and electoral systems on trial, and I'm certain, no matter the divide you belong to, you will know that is an issue that must be resolved somehow, one way or the other. And I have implicit confidence and faith in God that that matter would obviously be resolved. And I think it will be to the glory of God, to the sustenance of our democracy, because that's the way to go. We are meant to understand that the judiciary is the last bastion of hope for every Democrat. And I'm a Democrat. I'm a professed Democrat. I'm a committed Democrat. I'm a patriotic Nigerian. And so, but going forward, I am sure, I am certain that everybody, the bench, the bar, the laymen like us, participants, I mean, the electoral umpires, everybody will know there is need to address that question, because it's people have talked about the mathematical impossibility. They've talked about the judicial. I mean, they can't make sense out of that legal. I'm sure maybe something. It's something that it's something that will be resolved one way or the other. I believe so. I believe it will resolve one way or the other. I have confidence. But like I said, that event is not enough to question my confidence in the Nigerian state, question my faith in our nation, question my faith. I mean, all it will do is to serve to strengthen our democracy. That's all we need to do. So how do we take it from there? How would that make us a better nation? I believe it will. And that's very important. And I believe that such will not. So there'll be a resolution. There'll be a resolution. I'm sure people have gone into research. I'm sure people are thinking, how do we get out of this? Because you can't live in that way, because you go with a sense of purpose to the highest court in the land, and you want to believe that I have my facts are right. And this wasn't a borderline case, certainly not a borderline case. It was a clear case. I mean, the facts are clear, the facts are sacred, it's not missing, it's out there in the public domain. So it's not about Emeka and Ihedioha, it's about our people, it's about the survival of the Nigerian nation. And I'm certain that every lover of democracy, and even those who do not really believe in, they should appreciate where we're coming from. And so you draw strength from where we're coming from, because we've gone through some dark times. And we're optimistic that going forward, Nigeria will be a greater nation. And our children, I mean, my children, several young chaps have been asking what exactly is going on. And I think that is the issue. So we should be strengthened by that fact, and everybody should get committed for us to resolve. It's a dilemma that needs to be resolved. It's a mystery. I consider it is a mystery somehow. So God should give us the strength and enablement to find answers to the questions it has raised, and it will help everyone. I don't think it's a time for show of strength. I don't think it's a time to be egoistic. I think it's a time to look at Nigeria. It's a time to think about our democratic future. It's a time to talk about. It's a time to put to test our sense of patriotism, and then for us to know that you have, we must have answers to God. I'm very confident that there will be answers to the questions raised. I'm very confident about that. I'm very confident that there are many more patriotic Nigerians out there than we imagine. I am confident that the sense of despair that has bedeviled the entire Nigerian atmosphere, the sense of submission, the sense of disgust, the sense of agony, will give way to. I believe that at the end of the day, there will be lights at the end of the tunnel. I am certain about that. I believe God loves our country, and I urge everyone to remain resolute, to be strengthened by the fact that over the period we've shown our capacity, inherent capacity to turn things around. We've shown capacity. When I came in as governor of Imo State, Imo was in the dark ages, obviously. Light has today been restored to Imo, and I'm sure God knows why. He has allowed this temporary setback to come in, and I'm certain that, like I said, it will be temporary. It certainly will be a temporary setback. We'll bounce back. Our economy will grow from strength to strength again. Imo will become yet positive again, and from the events from that event of Tuesday, January 14th, will emerge a greater Imo State. I'm certain. Perhaps history is being made, and the authors of that script may have unconsciously begun to set, they have unconsciously set a path for a greater future for all of us. And I believe that we should be strengthened with that. There is a greater future for Imo, there is a greater future for our country. I will remain pan-Nigerian, I will remain pan-Igbo, I will remain the patriot I've been, and I am certain that from this situation we'll emerge stronger. We'll emerge stronger. There are times, and like I said, I will keep referring to my famous, very, 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 very quote in the Bible that I'm at home with: a time for everything, a time and a purpose for everything. And so there's a time, there's a reason. There's a reason, there's a time, there's a purpose. And so we'll be stronger. And this is history. And don't forget the effect of history in our lives. This is history.
Thank you so much for your time, Your Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you.